Watch out for the backup QB, Beau Pribula. But not for the reason you're thinking.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Would Penn State actually consider benching Drew Allar for Beau Pribula this season? These are your captains speaking. Did the Nittany Lions get it right? And Penn State makes a necessary personnel change on defense. This is Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Zach Seyko, and thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started and be a part of the conversation down in the comments section. Are you team Drew Allar or team Beau Pribula? And this is one that I see a lot from Penn State fans, criticizers of Drew Allar, that Beau Pribula should start. He's better than Allar. He fits the offense better. Now it's Andy Kotelnicki likes running quarterbacks, so it should be Beau Pribula. Let me start by saying this. The stock is up for Beau Pribula right now, from Penn State's point of view. After an incredible summer, training camp, all things are pointing in the right direction for Beau Pribula, but maybe not necessarily in the way that people think. So these things can be true, right? Pribula is the more athletic quarterback. That's a fact. He's faster. He's stronger as a runner, right? Pribula is perceived to have more poise, toughness, that it factor that everybody needs when it comes to athletics. That's not just relevant to football. And I understand that though, right? I want to be honest. I want to be objective, even though this is a Penn State show, right? I can understand that, especially with the way that Allar's been emotional in the wrong way on the other side of those losses, right? The emotion is a good thing in sports when it turns into passion, but not what we saw from Drew Allar after Ohio State and Michigan. Beau Pribula has been compared to Trace McSorley, and we saw how good that guy was. Andy Kotelnicki doesn't just like running quarterbacks. No. He likes talented quarterbacks. What, is he not supposed to take an offense that is led by vintage Tom Brady or Peyton Manning because they're not a mobile quarterback? No, he just likes talented quarterbacks, okay? And that's what he has in Drew Allar and Beau Pribula. So again, the stock is up for Beau Pribula here. Kotelnicki has said that he has elite athleticism, great speed, and when it comes to the change of direction, his ability to move, his agility, top 1%. That's some pretty good praise for the backup quarterback here. And then Beau has added himself that he feels really good in this offense. Andy Kotelnicki offenses have been very kind to mobile dual threat quarterbacks, so it's no surprise that Beau Pribula feels great in this offense. But again, the question is, it's not, okay, how far has Beau Pribula gotten to this point in his third year with the program? The question is, would Penn State bench Drew Allar for Beau Pribula? And the answer is no. The answer is no. Allar is the starting quarterback, but that does not mean that Beau Pribula is not going to see the football field this season. Allar is the better overall quarterback. He's the better passer. He's the better field general. And what that means is he's better at reading defenses, seeing the football field, and making the necessary adjustments that a quarterback needs to make. And he was just named captain. So if Penn State had this idea that, yes, we are going to put Beau Pribula in at some point over Drew Allar, we don't. So I've given a lot of praise here and talked about all the positives of Beau Pribula as a player, but we don't know if he's an effective passer yet. We don't know if he's more than a one-trick player. Sure, he can run the ball effectively, but what is he like when he has to throw it? But Pribula is too good to keep off the field. Yet for some reason, Mike Yurcich did that a season ago in 2023, and that's why we're here today. Why Andy Kotelnicki's in Happy Valley and Mike Yurcich is not. One of the reasons. So here is Kotelnicki, who takes over this offense, who likes mobile quarterbacks and 2 QB systems. And that's the reason I want people to see. That's what I want people to think about here. We will, in fact, see more Pribula on the field in a wildcat package, a change of pace. I would not be surprised if Pribula gets a whole drive, depending on the matchup, right? Where he comes in, and I guess, okay, yes, Allar's coming off of the football field for Beau Pribula, but to say that Pribula is going to be quarterback one, the starter, is not the case here. It's still going to be Allar. But the way that people should view this now is not a timeshare, but a way to effectively, efficiently, strategically utilize 2 quarterbacks that have 2 different skill sets that are necessary to make this offense more dynamic. Okay, because there are still going to be struggles. Offensive line is a concern. You make one change by bringing in Julian Fleming to the wide receiver core, and you lose 3 of them in Dante Cephas, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and Malik Megas. So there are concerns. This offense is not perfect, but if you can make it better any way that you can, Beau Pribula allows you to do that. And if you watched my last episode, you'll remember that I talked about how Allar will be more mobile himself and useful in the ground game. Kotelnicki is going to take advantage of that and use both quarterbacks with their unique skill sets individually and both of them at the same time. Kotelnicki is going to right the wrongs of Mike Yurcich as an offensive coordinator. There will be an initiative to get Beau Pribula on the football field, as there should have been all along. It will be used strategically, as I've mentioned, not just because you can. There's going to be a purpose behind it, and you can maximize the offense's versatility. Now defenses have to game plan for a completely different quarterback, a completely different offense. And when they're both on the field together, that even adds a different element. You have 2 passers, but more importantly, you have 2 passers that can move and make plays with their legs. Allar is not a statue. And I just got done watching a podcast not too long ago with the newest member of the Locked On team, Mountaineer Paul, who covers the West Virginia Mountaineers, saying that Drew Allar's not mobile. He's slow. He can't move. And I want to be the one to say, no, that he can. No, he can. Be aware of that. But yes, Beau Pribula is the better runner, but not the better overall quarterback. That's okay. However, if Pribula ever needed to run the offense for an extended stretch of the schedule, for whatever reason, right? If he had to be the starting quarterback, I would feel confident that Penn State's offense would not miss a beat with Pribula as QB1. Now, coming up in the next segment, I mentioned Drew Allar is a captain. 5 others have been selected as captain as well, and there's a couple surprises that didn't make the list. I'll tell you more on the other side of this break. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little bit different for you, all of you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. How cool does that sound? All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So it's easy and seamless. There is no unnecessary commitment. And all you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sportsbook. Now, I actually use FanDuel myself. And if you look over on FanDuel.com right now, we have some line movement. That is right. We have some line movement in favor of the West Virginia Mountaineers. If you look at that matchup between the Nittany Lions and the Mountaineers, Penn State is still a favorite, but by 9.5 points. Minus 9.5. The total is set at 51.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com. Again, that is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now, before we get back to the show, as we all know, college football is back. And the Locked On College Football podcast is kicking off the action with a live season preview at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, August 20th on the Locked On College 24/7 streaming YouTube channel. This is a 4-part series covering each of the 4 major conferences with a discussion on which of the teams from the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and SEC have a shot at the expanded college football playoffs. Be sure to check out this special streaming on Locked On College's 24/7 YouTube channel or on Amazon Fire TV. And it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As for the 2024 Penn State captains, I have no grievances here. I think these are the right choices. For offense, it's quarterback Drew Allar and center Nick Dawkins. On defense, it's KJ Winston and Kobe King. And for special teams, it's Riley Thompson and Dom DeLuca. And they vote on this, right? These players were voted in to be the 6 captains, and the way that Penn State does it, 2 offense, 2 defense, 2 special teams. And these all, like I said, they make sense. I have no complaints here. Your second-year starting quarterback should be a captain. Your redshirt senior veteran center should definitely be a captain. And that makes sense, especially when wide receiver doesn't have a bona fide playmaker just yet. Again, Trey Wallace is supposed to be that. Amari Evans is up and coming, but you have to prove it. And Julian Fleming hasn't been in the program. He's only been here since the spring football season when he transferred in over the winter enrollment period, right? So Julian Fleming is a captain type, but not going to be in this case. So you have your veteran second-year starting quarterback. You have a veteran center. Veteran talented defenses. KJ Winston going into his 3rd season. Kobe King is your Mike linebacker, supposed to be that field general on defense. And then on special teams, one of the oldest players on the team and your returning starting punter in Riley Thompson, and then your only 2-time captain here. So the other 5 outside of Dom DeLuca are all first-time captains. Dom DeLuca is the only 2-time repeat captain here. Again, Penn State votes on this. Allar being voted captain is positive to see for a lot of reasons, especially given last season's struggles. And when I say that, 10-2 is respectable, but obviously Penn State wants to be better. It's not about the 10-2 record. It's the way that Drew Allar handled that 10-2 record, because it was a question of whether he could be a true leader. We all know about the post-game interview after the Ohio State game. A very emotional Drew Allar, and again, emotional in not the right way when it comes to football. But now intel says that he's more confident, he's more determined, he's more versatile as a player, and I think he exemplifies that in the number of interviews and the number of times that he's spoken to the press during training camp here. Is he a Trace McSorley or Sean Clifford type of leader? Not exactly. He's just not as vocal as them, and Allar owns that. But if Allar shows grit, leads by example, and has the ability to really take on that short-term memory that you need in the game in sports, which he has addressed directly. He's talked about that being a thermostat as opposed to a thermometer. The quote that implies that we need to be able to control the heat, control the temperature, rather than just gauge it. Show what it says, be able to control it and scale it back, and be able to, if you make a mistake, this is where true leaders are set apart by the example. If you make a mistake, don't let it turn into a bad drive, a bad quarter, a bad half. If it's a bad play, fine, it's isolated. People make mistakes, but it's when it snowballs into other things, that's a problem. And I think Drew Allar is past that. Now, as for the defense, I like the choices of KJ Winston and Kobe King as the defensive captains. But there are 2 players that are noticeably missing from this list. Abdul Carter and Dani Dennis Sutton. They could wind up being Penn State's best assets on defense. And Dani Dennis Sutton specifically, I feel like he's a spark plug kind of player. High energy, high motor. He charges the emotion in, for the pun, the electricity. That may be true. That Carter and DDS, Dani Dennis Sutton, may boost the energy, but you have to remember these are the leaders of the team. And guys like, I know DeLuca is a special teams captain in this case, but he also, of course, doubles as a linebacker here. But King, specifically to King and Winston, they are going to coordinate the defense on the football field. I think that's important when Winston gets to see sideline to sideline, right? Carter and Dennis Sutton, they're right on the front lines. They're okay. Yeah, more puns in this case for football and battles and everything. But they are right there. They're not changing around the defense. They are not shifting the play. They are not making calls. They're going to take those communications. So Carter and Dennis Sutton are going to lead in different ways. You couldn't have gone wrong with any of them because Carter makes those impact type of plays. I think he's the most valuable player on this team overall. Deny Dennis Sutton has the energy really. He is inspirational just by how high of a motor that he has. But I like the choices of King, Winston. I think they have futures in the NFL. King is extremely underrated. I think he's one of the most valuable players on the team as it is. And he's being severely disrespected by not only college football fans, the media, but even Penn State spectators. Kobe King deserves the due respect. So there is a reason that the linebacker and the safety who are going to that see the entirety of the field, that are veterans, that do have the same amount of talent that Carter and DDS have, that is why Winston and King were selected. And then going back to the special teams, right? That third side of the football is important. Riley Thompson, as I've mentioned, is one of the oldest players on the team, and he is a really good punter. Let's not forget that. And DeLuca, of course, I mean, as your repeat captain, he was a captain a season ago with the special teams alongside Malik Mega. This is a no-brainer here. But DeLuca is why people love college football. DeLuca, a former walk-on, earned his stripes and is now a quality linebacker and a special teamer. Yes, DeLuca is a linebacker, but he was the special teams captain a season ago, and he is that again. So Penn State has named Allar, Dawkins, King, Winston, DeLuca, and Thompson the 6 captains for the 2024 season as voted by the team. Penn State wasn't finished making personnel changes here, so they announced the captains, but they make another personnel change on the defensive side on the football. This is strategic, and I'll tell you what happened coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to its peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car into that MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Again, that is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. So Penn State makes a smart move here defensively. The personnel change that I've been alluding to is Dakari Nelson is going to be moving down from safety to linebacker. First reported by On3 Blue White Illustrated's Sean Fitz. And redshirt freshman Dakari Nelson is moving to that linebacker spot. And not only is it strategic, not only is it smart, it's necessary. It's necessary. Nelson was kind of always rumored to eventually end up at linebacker, actually. He was recruited as a safety originally, and a very good one. Top 15 in the entire country when he was recruited as a safety. He's listed at 6'3". This is currently up on the Go PSU Sports website. 6'3", 217 pounds per the official roster. So he will need to add weight. That's the first thing that stands out here. This is a short-term and a long-term solution, because you're going to have to play the long game here. At 217 pounds, that's not going to cut it at linebacker. It needs to be at least 230, 235. You'd like him to be in that 240. You'd like to get him to 240, but Penn State has always emphasized, James Franklin has said this, from a nutritional standpoint, you are not going to just add weight just for the sake of adding weight. Penn State needs numbers at linebacker. That's why this move was necessary, why it was a no-brainer, because you have the loss of Kavion Keys. You still have an injury to Keon Wiley, and you moved Abdul Carter to defensive end, your best linebacker is now a pass rusher, and that's fine. Penn State made that decision for a reason, but when you have all these changes at linebacker, you need some reinforcements here, and that's what Dakari Nelson is. You don't need the help at safety right now. You need it at linebacker. And these players are so versatile that if ever it would ever to need to arise, because they've talked about that, Abdul Carter moving back and forth between defensive end and linebacker if necessary. Nelson could always move back to safety if it happened to be that way. But Nelson is going to be a linebacker, I think, moving forward. I think this is the plan. Like I said, a short term to fill that depth chart, long term to convert him to an off-ball linebacker here. And Nelson has the frame to be the off-ball line, to be an off-ball linebacker. How tall is Abdul Carter? 6'3". How tall is Micah Parsons? 6'3". Dakari Nelson, 6'3". I'm not trying to argue here that Nelson is the next person, the next player to wear the number 11, to be that LeVar Arrington type of player and set the standard. But Penn State likes tall, athletic defenders to be that off-ball linebacker to play over there. Again, Keon Wiley, Tony Rojas moving over there, they all fit the frame. And more importantly, this allows, again, the depth chart, but Bakari Jackson, an incoming true freshman, I don't think he should be forced into action early on. Allow him to sit, allow him to learn. Don't force a first-year player onto the football field when he is not ready. Maybe he is, but you allow some time for development here in this case. Again, Nelson's already been with the program. And Nelson coming down from the secondary, what I really like about this is that he has the necessary coverage skills that he's bringing with him. It's like having a tall defensive back. So at 6'3", so there's that mismatched tight end that a slot defensive back is quick enough to cover, but obviously doesn't match up with the size. And then a slot receiver is going to be faster than your traditional linebacker, but Dakari Nelson kind of has all of that blended together, but you don't want him to be a liability in run defense. I think here what he will be able to help to do is on third downs, he will be helpful in those obvious passing situations until he can bulk up and have the necessary frame. He has the framework to get to that frame. I know that's high praise for Nelson. That's a lot of optimism for somebody, again, that was a top defender, a top 15 safety in the country once upon a time when he was being recruited. It's just a matter of if he will be able to handle it. Penn State doesn't make this decision without it being a coordinated decision. I like this move a lot for a variety of reasons, as I've stated here. First things first, though, needs to bulk up, needs to add the muscle, the weight, and then get adjusted to the specific technique. Again, if this was the plan all along, that's fine, but like Abdul Carter, being an effective stand-up pass rusher from the linebacker spot, there's still the bits and pieces of that specific technique that he's needed to pick up at defensive end. Same thing applies here for Dakari Nelson going from safety to linebacker. The writing was there for the move to happen. It's just been accelerated. And that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. We are within that 2-week window of Penn State versus West Virginia. The 2024 season is here, which means a full comprehensive 2024 preview in addition to the news that we are talking about from Penn State training camp, predictions, more predictions and analysis for Penn State versus West Virginia, and talking about everything in between. It'll all be right here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And as always, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. Be a part of the conversation down in the comments section. Drew Allar or Beau Pribula, what do you think of the 6 captain selections and Dakari Nelson moving from safety to linebacker? I want to know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave a like on it, share it with friends and family. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you're not already, become an everydayer, subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams. So thank you for making us your first listen and watch. For your second listen and watch, go check out Locked On College Football, the podcast hosted by Spencer McLaughlin, as we are so close to college football kicking off. McLaughlin's getting you ready for an exciting season of college football. Okay, we know about the transfer portal, we know about NIL, but now there's the conference realignment, the expanded college football playoff. Spencer McLaughlin is covering it all and taking you through all of it leading up to the 2024 season. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, and it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day.